very first mock draft of the year. And there is no surprise at the top. Todd has the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Clemson's Trevor Lawrence with the #1 overall pick. So that is not a surprise. He then has the Jets at #2, taking the Oregon offensive tackle Penei Sewell, and then the Dolphins taking the Heisman Trophy winner Devontae Smith. BYU's Zach Wilson is the second quarterback off the board to the Falcons at 4, and that is because McShay doesn't have any of the next 10 teams taking a quarterback. And at 15, he has Justin Fields from Ohio State going to the New England Patriots. Here's a look at the full top 10 of McShay's first mock, and outside of the quarterbacks, as you see, Sewell is there, Devontae Smith. That would team up Smith with his old quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, in Miami. But there's obviously a lot to unpack here, and so let us bring McShay into the conversation as we thank you for getting up with us here, Todd McShay, and Shefty is alongside as well. Let's start at the very top. So much talk about Trevor Lawrence. Just how good a prospect in your mind is he, McShay, in relation to other recent quarterbacks who've been at the top of the board?
I go back to Andrew Luck in 2012. I really think he's the highest graded quarterback that I've had since 2012. And Andrew Luck, remember when he came out, obviously he had some injuries and didn't quite live up to what the expectation was. But from a prospect standpoint, I think Trevor Lawrence is just as good. I mean, to me, Andrew Luck was the epitome of a quarterback that was coming out and ready to play in the NFL. And Trevor Lawrence this year has been different. He's matured. You saw it in the offseason. You saw him handle all the social justice and everything else that has gone on. And he's slowed down his game. He understands what he's looking for defensively. And I just think he's playing at such a high level. I think it's a no-brainer that he's the #1 overall pick. And Jacksonville hasn't had the #1 overall pick in 26 years of their organization. So to me, it's surprising, first of all, with all the losing that they've done, that they had not had that first overall pick, but he could be the player that finally turns things around for the Jaguars.
Right, and look, obviously he's spectacular. You are not the only one. Every analyst that we have talked to says that he is a generational prospect. What should we make of the fact, Todd? I've been waiting to ask you this question since last Friday night. That in the last 3 college football playoff games in which he played, Ohio State last year, LSU last year, and now last Friday night, he was outplayed by the other quarterback on the field. That's just what happened in those games.
Yep.
What should we take away from that?
It's a good question, and it's a fair question. But you got to understand, his offensive line was not very good this year. They lost 2,800 yards in receiving from a year ago in terms of their top 3 receivers. And so he just had to carry the team, and there was not enough around him in order to play to the high level that you expect. But you go back and watch a year ago against Ohio State when he didn't have his fastball in the semifinal game, but he competed and he ran the ball and he found a way to win. I just think he's a winner. And I think you look at him physically, mentally, maturity-wise, he has everything that you look for in a quarterback prospect.
Shefty, so there's no question about this, right? I mean, last year around this time you said, put it on the bottom line, Joe Burrow is going #1 to Cincinnati. And at that point, it felt like there was some question. This year, there isn't any such question, right?
It doesn't really feel that way. Now, the only scenario that you could concoct that could even potentially come into play would be if somehow Urban Meyer took that job, has a connection to Justin Fields, and decides, you know what, I really like Justin Fields, feel comfortable. He played incredibly well in the playoffs. If Justin Fields plays well again against Alabama and has another performance like the one he had this past week, then maybe he would garner some consideration. But I think Trevor Lawrence is widely expected to be the #1 overall pick. And when you hear Todd say that he's this generational quarterback, the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, you've heard others say the best quarterback prospect since Peyton Manning, that's the guy that almost always goes #1. It would be an upset if he didn't go #1. So if you want to put on the bottom line right now, Greeny, that Trevor Lawrence is expected to go #1, go right ahead. There's no surprise in that. There's no shock in that. It's not like Joe Burrow last year, but I think Trevor Lawrence will be the #1 pick, yes.
Right, be careful what you wish for, because we'll do it, but that's neither here nor there. All right, McShay, then let me come to you, because that's not the surprising part. Here's the surprising part, to me at least. I have felt like for much of the last 2 years, Lawrence and Fields were sort of 1 and 1A. So what has happened that Justin Fields now on your mock draft has fallen all the way to 15 and isn't even the second quarterback off the board?
Yeah, well, Zach Wilson from BYU has really risen. He had a great year this year. And listen, you could see Fields go number 4. He could go to Atlanta. And I struggled with it, to be completely honest. But at the end of the day, I think Zach Wilson is a better player. I think his ability to extend plays, his ability to throw the ball down the field and make plays. And Justin Fields is a really good player as well, but he gets stuck on his primary a lot. And if you really study his game, I worry about him in the NFL in terms of adjusting and being able to go from that first look to the second look and processing fast enough. And that really, the more tape I've studied, the more concern I've had. And I know he's coming off of a great game and obviously is a great competitor. But I just think Zach Wilson is a little bit of a better player. And then there's not a lot of teams that need quarterbacks from that number 4 spot on down to 15, where I have the Patriots taking Justin Fields.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.